Hello, creative friends. This is Joy. This time I have several art journal pages that I want to share with you. I have all of my Dylusion paints out, and I just wanted to play around with the paints and create a couple of different pages in my weekend journal. I have this journal where I just, whenever I don't have a lot of time or don't really feel like spending a lot of time doing an art journal page, and I just want to play, that I call my weekend journal, where I will just, play around in it and do a couple of quick pages. So here I'm just using a credit card to swipe some different colors on this art journal page, turquoise, pink, and orange. And the next page I decided, well, let me put some paper down with some gesso, watered down gesso, and then put the paint on top. So that's what I'm doing here. Usually when my gesso gets down low, I'll add water to it to water it down, because I like to use it over pieces of scrap paper, and I'm just using some book pages and some pieces of a map that I found in my scrap box to put down on this page. So I put the pieces of paper down. I didn't cover the whole page with the gesso. I just, used it to get the pieces of paper down and then dried it. And then I got out the colors that I wanted to use on the page, which was a lime green and a regular green, and then the blue. And because I put the pieces of paper down with gesso, it made kind of a rough surface. So as you can see, it's not going on as smoothly as it did on the first page. And also, these paints weren't as transparent for some reason. I guess maybe because they were darker colors. Like the lime green was pretty transparent, but the blue and the darker green weren't really that transparent. So it was covering up, the scrap pieces of paper that I put on this page, and you couldn't see them very well. So I end up just figuring, well, I'll just get the paint down and get everything covered up, and then we'll go back and try to rub some of the paint off where the pages are stuck down. So that's what I'm doing here, just trying to get coverage on the page. And then I'm getting a baby wipe and spraying it with water, because all my baby wipes have dried out. And then just using that to pick up some of the paint that was covering up those scrap pieces of paper. Now, after going through and doing this part, it kind of lost some of the definition of the swipes on the page with the credit card. So I ended up going back in with the credit card around these areas with the paint again, to try to bring back some of the detail from the paints being swiped on there, and to put some color back on the page. So here I went back around and through on the page just in between to put some color back on the page around these areas, and to make it look more natural, and like the paper, the pieces of paper are more embedded in the background. And here I'm adding some blue, and then I go back and add a little bit of the green, the darker green. And I decided that, I didn't, like I said, want to spend a lot of time, but I did want to be creative and do something. So that's when I like to grab my weekend journal and just play, with, a couple of pages at once, to try to see what I can come up with. I didn't really have any preconceived notion of what I was going to do with these pages, other than just playing around with putting paint on the pages. But I figured, well, I'll get some paint on the pages, and then I'll search through my stash and see what I can come up with, that will go on these pages. So here I just did like I did with the first page, but with purple, pink, and orange. Just kind of used the credit card to swipe some colors on the page and just get a background down. And I probably should have used some wax paper because I did end up getting paint on other pages, but again, I wasn't that concerned about it. So here I took the last three colors, which was black, red, and yellow, and I thought, well, on this particular one, I think I'd like to use like a stencil. So I decided to put the red and the yellow down, and then decided, to see what stencils I had that I could use on this page to, use the black through a stencil. I thought that would be, a nice contrast against the yellow and the red. So I give that a quick dry, and then I decide to use two different stencils. I have this number stencil and this stencil with the big circles, which that is actually a hand-cut stencil that I made myself for another project. And as you saw there, I spilt the black paint on my hand, but so it was a little bit runnier than I realized, and I spilt it, which doesn't bode well for using through a stencil, because really, you want a thicker paint when you're using it with the stencil. So you'll see when I pull the stencils up, some of the, I got some of it where it bled under. So the stencil didn't come out as crisp, but you know what, I don't really care. So here I'm going through my stash of pictures and just trying to find something that, will go with the pages, the backgrounds that I created. And this green background was a little bit more challenging to figure out what to put on it. And then here's my quotes and words and phrases that I've been collecting. So I'm also thinking about the other pages that I've created, and I'm kind of putting some ideas aside for those as well, so that way I don't have to go back through all of them again. But still trying to find what I think would work on this background, the green. So decided on that, and then grabbed some of the things I had pulled out, a minute ago that I thought might work with the other pages. I like this title here, Reach Your Goals, because the pink seems to match the background, and now I'm trying to find, what else would go on this background, which I found this picture from a magazine that looked like had all the colors in it that is in the background. And so I found a couple more options, but decided to go with the one because it seemed like it went the best. And then trying to decide on the last one, there's a couple options there, and decided on this option here to go with the head and then a quote that I found. So now that I've decided on what I wanted to put on these pages, I pulled out my collage page, and I always like to put it in a medicine cup, and then I have a paintbrush dedicated to use with glue and Mod Podge and gesso. It's an inexpensive brush that I keep and use over and over again, so that way I don't ruin any of my good brushes. And so I trimmed the picture out, and I have a corner rounder that I keep handy, because sometimes I don't like it just to be square. I like to round the corners, so that's what I was doing with the picture. And then with the quote or the phrase, I like to kind of not really cut into a rectangle. I like to kind of cut around it, so it kind of wonky. So I don't know, I just like the look. I mean, because sometimes I'll cut it. You'll see some of the others that I cut into like a rectangle, but on this one I just kind of cut around, the words, and didn't, wasn't trying to be too particular or straight or whatever. And so I going through and putting down the elements that I found for these pages with the collage page. And I'm using a credit card, as you can see there, to kind of smooth out any bubbles, wrinkles, what have you. I mean, I think I still ended up getting a few little wrinkles, but like there, I was trying to fix it on the edge, but I didn't really concern myself too much with that. And this one, I liked it, had like a little border and then that round kind of thing, but I didn't really like how it was covering up so much of the page. So I decided to cut around it, and I'm not fussy cutting it. I'm leaving a little bit of a white border because, I'm not trying to be too particular with it. And then I cut out the little decorative strip and then the round seal or emblem or whatever that is, because to use on this page. So I cut out all the little elements that I wanted to use on the page, and I'm just trimming up the quote that I want to use on this page and rounding the corners. For some reason, well, I know the reason why. It's because the paper's so thin, because it comes from a magazine. The corner rounder doesn't cut completely or through. If I put backed it with another piece of paper and then did the corners, it would probably cut more cleanly through. So that's why you see me with the scissors kind of trying to trim off, the rest of the corner. So I'm using my collage page to put these elements down on the page where I wanted them, and the credit card to help smooth out any wrinkles or bubbles or what have you. And then I always put a coat on top to make sure that and go around the edges just to make sure that it's good and sealed down to the page, and then putting that little seal down on the page. And trying to dry it as I work out any wrinkles. And then here's the third page. This particular one I decided, to leave the picture square and to cut the title square. So I'm just trimming both of those up and then gluing those down on the page. And I like to do this, like I said, when I, don't have a whole lot of time and I just want to play and not really have to think too much about it, and just want to do something creative. This is a fun way just to do that. I mean, there's no pressure, no trying to create anything spectacular, and it just, this whole journal is filled with pages similar to this, where I've just had a weekend, a couple hours on weekend to play. And I was putting paint brushes, as you saw me there, in between the pages, just in case they weren't completely dry, because I wasn't being completely patient with trying to make sure that it was completely dry. So I dried it, for the most part, and then would stick a big paintbrush in between just to keep the pages from sticking together if for some reason that it wasn't completely dry, just long enough until I got through putting all of these elements down on the pages. So I did fussy cut the head out. I thought that it would look better, fussy cut it out, and then that the title was actually already trimmed out because I was going to use it on a different project and then ended up not using it. So then I decided that I wanted to play with some washi tape. I've got tons of washi tape, and I just don't really seem to use it a whole lot. So I thought, it'd be fun to put some washi tape on these pages and play with that a little bit. So I pulled out washi tape from my stash and decided to put some washi tape down on these pages to finish them out. And I grabbed my Posca pens to outline the picture and the quote. And here, since there's orange on the page, I thought it would bring out more of the orange to outline it in the orange Posca pen. And these actually dry fairly quickly, so I was able to, you know, go from one page to the next without, you know, too much, having to wait too long. I give it a quick blast and then on to the next page. So on this particular page, I found some washi tape that I thought would work, but it was too wide, so I was trying to fold part of it over, like 2/3 of it I was trying to fold over and leaving just enough across the top stickiness to be able to stick it down. So that's what I'm doing there, because if I left it the full width, it was going to be taping over the little emblem or whatever that I put on the page. And then I just outlined the title with a black Posca pen. So that pretty much is all I did to that page, and gave it a quick little dry and flip to the next one. So on this one, I decided that, you know, I like this washi tape against this background, so I decided to frame my picture that I put on this page with the washi tape, put a cute little frame around it with the washi tape, which I did think, you know, turned out really cute. And then I was thinking about doing the title. I thought, that's too much. So I decided that I would use my Posca pens to trace around the title. So that's what I did. I just traced around the title with some pink, since there was a lot of pink on this page. And that's pretty much that page. Gave it a quick dry, and then flip to the next one. And this I had some black, found some black tape that had numbers on it that I thought would be kind of cool. So I put a little piece across the top and the bottom. And then I used my black Posca pen to outline everything. So that's pretty much, you know, these pages that I did for my weekend journal, that, you know, where I just was playing around with some paints and some products and stuff and having a good time, not really, like I said, giving it a whole lot of thought. But these make for some really quick pages. So that's pretty much art journal pages for today. If you like this video, you can like or subscribe if you want to see more videos. And you can also leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. I appreciate, you know, people watching my videos and letting me know what they think. And I hope you guys have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.